Hello, everyone. My name is Julianne Meyer, and I am the host of Own Your Wellness. And I'm excited today. I have a very special guest who is talking with us today about breast health. And this is such an important topic that I feel kind of gets swept under the rug. And I've been looking forward to this for a while now because this is such a near and dear topic to me. And I don't want to waste any time chatting with myself because we got a lot of stuff to cover. So without further ado, let me introduce our guest, Patricia Lucardi. Hello, my dear
Hey,
friend. How are you?
hey, how are you? Thank you so much. Well, I'm from Brooklyn, so I can really talk fast. So let's
The
just
BK.
as jump into it. Jump into it.
Yes,
So,
let's. So,
well,
would you mind telling a little bit about yourself before we get into what we really need to talk
okay.
about?
I've always had an interest in natural health since I was 18. I read Diet for a Small Planet. It's dating me a while back, and I've always experimented doing this diet, taking that vitamin, taking colonics, doing this, doing retreats, going to, doing fasting. I've just used myself as a guinea pig to stay healthy, and I'm 71. I don't take any drugs. I take scads of vitamins every day. I stay on top of my blood work. I worked at a very prestigious medical spa, Canyon Ranch, for 5 years as a breath educator before I became a breast educator. And that's functional medicine. I don't know if anybody in your audience knows Mark Hyman.
Oh,
He's one of the
yes.
top functional medicine doctors. And I got to work side by side with him. And it was exciting because everybody was there for health. They taught you how to cook, they taught you how to take care of your body through exercise, mindfulness, yoga. And it was an overall mind, body, spirit. So I've always been interested in health. And I was doing corrective body work for years and working as a with natural green barley grass. I was the first to bring hydrogen water sticks into America.
Oh, wow.
And I started doing that Michael Beckwith, life visioning.
Hmm.
What's God's idea of itself as my life? And I did it for a year, and I decided to do thermography. It came through as guidance from spirit. So now I have a thermography practice in New York City. And people go, what's thermography? Thermography is a study of heat, of infrared, and it can detect breast cancer 8 to 10 years before a mammogram. And you go, well,
Wow.
why are we not using this? It was
Hmm.
covered by insurance until 1986. And the mammography lobby kind of came in and made it the gold standard. But it's used in many other countries. It's not just here.
Hmm.
And first, cancer is hot. It's a study of heat, and then it becomes an anatomical structure. So once it's found on a mammogram, an MRI, or an ultrasound, it's been there for a long time in the stages of heat. So we're working with prevention. But I don't want to focus so much on breast cancer. I want to focus on breast health and how to
Yay.
keep the breast healthy.
No, I love that. I mean, you have to focus on solution in order to move forward. So I love that about what you
Exactly.
say. Yes, yes,
Right.
exactly. So what would you say
Right.
is what sort I mean, because there's so much that we could talk about and start with, but I would really love for you to answer this question first, and that is,
Okay.
what do you think as far as knowledge is lacking that you would wish was commonplace?
Well, I don't feel like women know their own anatomy. There's been a lot of shame. Our breasts have been monetized, they're
Mhm.
sexualized. And for 10 years, I'm asking women, lift your breast and go an inch above your areola. And they're grabbing everything short of their knees. And one day I said, do you know where your areola is? And they go, not really. So
Wow.
getting to know your anatomy, self-touch brings up stuff for people, but for women, but a lot of women find their own lumps or breast cancer just through self-examination. They're in the shower or something. I mean, get to be friendly with your breasts. You want to keep them for the rest of your life. Um, uh, Thermography is the earliest detection, and it actually can detect what the toxins that we're seeing on the breast. So thermography it could start at the age of 20. I had a
Mm.
little girl yesterday, I told you earlier, that came in, and she was developing breast at 10 years old, and her mother was, she was horrified because first it's a little lump, but you remember when you start growing your breast, they're like little beads, little
Yeah.
seeds. And I've had two young boys come in also getting breast. So
Mm.
that's a subject that I want to cover on all these environmental estrogens. That's prevalent in our environment right now.
Now that's actually, it's amazing that the estrogen factor, because, and I would love to just hop right into that right now, because um, what can people do to change that in their environment? What can people do? Is there a certain, I mean, I don't know anything about it really, except that I know that it's not good for me. So,
Well, the Environmental Working Group has the Delightful 12 and the Dirty Dozen. They've had it for maybe 25 years.
mhm,
Strawberries, bell peppers, peaches have been on the top, the most toxic that we can put in our body. They also have all the cosmetics. You think about cheek color, eyeshadow,
mhm,
foundation, blush, all of that has endocrine disruptors in it. What that means, those are, it disrupts the endocrine system. So they are foreign estrogens that act like estrogens. They come in and they park on our receptor sites like Velcro, and
mm,
then they disrupt the system. And it can affect our thyroid, it can affect the ovaries. And what they're finding, I mean, that's just, it's coming from plastics, bisphenol A's, and shampoos. If you
mhm.
can't eat it, don't take it. But then you think, you know, our yogurt comes in plastic.
Yep.
Everything comes in plastic. And there's a brilliant film called Plastic Ocean. And if you haven't seen it, it's like an amazing documentary about the plastics in the ocean. But if you go into estuaries like the Chesapeake Bay was when they first discovered this, male fish are becoming female
Mhm.
because of all the plastics. And amphibians are, they're showing eggs on their testes. And
Mm,
men are
wow.
growing breasts. I don't know if you remember Seinfeld years ago, George Costanza said, we got to have a man's ear. We got to have a man's ear for the men, a bra. And you're starting to see it, you know? I mean, excuse me, but I don't want to see those things and you cover them up at the beach. But yes, so environmental estrogens, it's prevalent everywhere. I
Mhm.
actually read a book of a woman and her daughter. They went off plastic for 2 weeks. The body burden, they tested themselves, the body burden dropped considerably. They didn't buy anything in plastic because, you know, even your meat, or if you're eating meat, cheese, it all is covered in plastic.
It is.
So unless you're going to the farmer's market with your own paper bags, it's just, it's, we have to be very diligent about it. And plastic bottles, oh my goodness.
You know, I read somewhere, and this was horrifying, that the number one thing that Americans ingest over anything is plastic. So that's
Mhm.
over any food, but that is the thing that we ingest the most out of anything. And I just, that was
Did you
horrifying.
know that some of those noodles coming out of China have plastic in them?
Ooh,
Isn't that
no.
crazy? Uh-huh, plastic noodles. You know how they discovered this? It was at, I think it was at Duke University. They had breast cancer cells in a test tube, and they started proliferating. And they realized that the test tube was leaching plastic. And then they decided to take household plastics, Tupperware, uh, saran wrap, and stuff like that. And they chopped it up. They put it in a saline solution, and then they put it in a petri dish with breast cancer cells, and they proliferated like gasoline on fire. And that's where they found the first link to plastics and breast cancer. But you won't
Wow.
hear that during Breast Cancer Awareness Month ever.
No, you know, it's like we think of like breasts as like this one part of our body, not as all of it. I mean, it's all connected. Everything is connected. And what you put in your mouth, what you put on your skin, all of these things, you know,
That's right.
everything affects everything else.
Everything,
Yeah.
everything. Well, as a thermographer, I have I can actually, because thermography is a visual, I can actually see the condition of a woman's breast. I can see the
Hmm.
estrogen dominance. When you say, you know, everything that we put in our mouth, well, there's a huge connection to root canals, amalgams, dental
Mm.
inflammation, and what it does, it drains down the neck and into the lymphatic system, into the breast. So there is a movie that was taken off, it was censored off Netflix after a week being there, called Root Cause. I highly suggest, if you have not read that, if a person is going to a cutting edge cancer clinic, like in Mexico or, you know, Costa Rica, they will not treat a person if they have root canals or amalgams in their mouth, being that
Wow.
there's a connection, you know, to cancer, and it's draining into the breast. So we always want to see what's above the breast. So we like to photograph the mouth to see what the drainage is. And lymph, you know, do we even know what the lymph system is? Do we even know? It's like, what is the lymph system? But
Hmm.
the bras are one of the worst culprits of our breast health because it's tight, and those underwires that do nothing, they come up under the breast right where the lymphatic system is, all those nodules right there, or all those lymph nodes. So we find a lot of breast cancer is in that outer quadrant
Wow.
in that lymph system. And they said the worst thing you can do is sleep in your bra. I had a woman that slept in her Spanx, in her Spanx.
No way.
And you have to ask,
Why?
where has she been traumatized in her life?
Yeah,
Sleeping in a
exactly.
bra, sleeping in a bra, sleeping in Spanx. The Spanx was over the top. But that's the only time that our lymph system gets to move, because it's with a bra. And our breasts are actually pendulous, and they run a degree or two cooler. So when we put
Oh.
a bra on, particularly like a Calvin Klein sports bra smashed to our chest, it makes our breasts run hot, and they
Mhm.
like to be cooler. So there's a book called Dress to Kill: The Link Between Bras and Breast Cancer, another great book. And I
Wow.
used a lot of that when I wrote my own book on thermography and the fibrocystic and dense breast. But we have to look at dental, if there's things in the mouth, the lymphatic system, the tight bras, deficiencies. The breasts love vitamin D. There are vitamin
Mm.
D receptors all over our body. In another study, they've shown that out of 156 women with breast cancer, they were all suboptimal in vitamin D. Now we know
Wow.
with COVID that vitamin D is crucial to our health,
Mhm.
and it needs to be between 50 and 70 in our micrals in our blood tests. And doctors say, oh, if you have 30, that's okay. One thing I learned at Canyon Ranch: never accept the word normal.
Uh-huh.
You want optimal. You want optimal.
Exactly.
And most doctors can't tell you what's optimal. Well, it's normal. But vitamin D is crucial. Iodine is crucial to the breast.
Mhm.
And if an animal is kept from iodine, over the years, they will get lumps in their mammary tissue, and
Interesting.
eventually can turn into cancer. So, what happened in the 60s and 70s, they took, we had iodized salt, and they told, my parents' age, stop having salt for blood pressure. So they
Mhm.
went off salt. There was the only iodine that we had, really. They took it out of the milk, they took it out of the bread, and they put
Yeah.
bromide, which I think in California, bromide's illegal. And it's a halide. And what it does, it doesn't allow the thyroid to uptake the iodine. So 10 years later, it starts to dovetail breast cancer, thyroid cancer, pancreatic cancer, prostate cancer, uterine fibroids, fibrocystic breast, nodules on the thyroid. But they can't patent an element. So we don't hear anything about it. But the thing is, it was lack of iodine. And then they demonized it. And then I said, well, I'm not going to take iodine because you think of
Mhm.
radioactive iodine, and that's scary. I wanted to make sure I got tested. And the only way you can really test is a 24-hour urine test. And that's available on in my book and on my website. But yeah, so iodine, in our breast love things
Mhm.
that are green, sulforaphane, dim, that comes from broccoli. And they found now that the broccoli seed, and that's in a supplement form,
Oh,
sulforaphane. Johns Hopkins found that that could actually turn off breast cancer stem cells. So,
wow.
but then, that's in a higher dosage. You can eat 40
Mhm.
pounds of broccoli. But again, cruciferous vegetables are great for our breasts. Our breasts
Mhm.
don't like wings and fries. They don't really like that in beer. And the other thing that's interesting is that estrogen, after 45 minutes, coffee turns into estrogen.
Oh, man. There goes my
And
coffee.
I had a lady last month. She was from Greece. She was a coffee addict. She said,
Mhm.
I love my coffee. Well, interesting enough, and I'm going to show you an image that it will come up in thermography. Estrogen will come up looking like leopard spots classically. And so that's our sexy hormone. And who
Yeah.
doesn't feel sexy with a pair of leopard panties on, right? Or a bra, separate bra. But if a woman has a hot flash in front of the camera, this is so cool. She completely turns like a leopard in front of me.
Oh, wow.
Everything, her ears, her eyes, everything is like a leopard.
That's
And
amazing.
also the ones that are coming from the environmental estrogens. Like
Mhm.
I had a gentleman that was taking wormwood for 3 months for parasites. He
Mhm.
was covered like a leopard in those
Wow.
estrogen spots. So that's really kind of cool, isn't it? But the estrogen is, we're having it's coming from outside of our body.
Hmm.
And that it's not tested in hormonal. If you go and have your hormones checked through an endocrinologist, they're not going to pick that up. But there are, again, the sulforaphane and the DIM and the iodine helps take those off the receptor sites. So there's ways to detox. So really, and in Chinese medicine, they say, well, it could be a deficiency or an excess. Of course, there's
Hmm.
more to Chinese medicine than that. But
Yeah.
we're living in an excess of toxins and
Hmm.
we're living in a time of deficiencies. So we have to look at those too.
And that's a really good point too, because it's just there's an imbalance. There's,
Yes, that's it. It's an imbalance. It's an
yeah,
imbalance.
and that's what's going to cause those issues. I love it when I have a guest that can explain something that could be really hard to understand and make it easy and just sort of simplify things in a way that doesn't make it dumb either. So,
Mhm.
you're saying what's important, yet also explaining it in a way that's easy to understand. So I just want to say thank you for that, because
Oh, good. Thank you.
it's not the easiest thing to talk about science related things and still keep people like, what? What are you saying?
Well, you know what? This is show and tell. I love show and tell.
Me
Should have been
too.
an elementary school teacher. Okay, so I'm gonna put this up. So thermography, again, it's a study of heat. It's infrared, and when we're unclothed and the room is a certain temperature, that's the physics part, our body gives off this heat. And the
Mhm.
camera is just picking this up. Listen, they've used it for espionage. Anything that's alive has heat, so that's easy to track if they're gonna drop something on somebody from their airplane. So I'm
Mhm.
gonna put this up like this so we can
Yeah.
see. Am I
There we
doing that
go.
right?
That looks
Okay.
good.
You can see that color. That's the
Mhm.
color scale. And they're looking at
Wow.
the bilateral heat differences. Do I have it imaged right? I mean, it's in the screen,
Up just a little bit higher.
a
There
little
you go.
higher.
That's perfect.
Okay. And the one on the black and white is called the
Mhm.
gray scale. And 60% of the findings are in this gray scale. And those estrogen spots pop up. They're just little pockets of inflammation. And classically, again, it'll look like leopard spots. And they're
Mhm.
looking at vascular patterns. So 60% of their findings, they can actually look at that. And then they go back to the color scale and they do the bilateral heat and they look at 76,000 pixels. So they can
Wow.
actually tell what our breasts look like. And it, again, cancer is hot. If it's a lump, bump, or a cyst, and it's not hot, it's benign, and it cuts out 80% of biopsies, which is another subject I want to talk about, dense breast and over
Mm.
biopsied. So I'm going to take this down.
It
Isn't that cool? Okay,
is
can
cool. I am
I,
such a visual person, so being able to see it definitely helps.
can I do another one? Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay, here we go. Here we go. Here we go. So
There you
let's
go. A
see.
little
Here we
higher
go.
up.
Okay. Can you tell those are breasts?
Just a little bit higher. There
Okay,
we go.
okay. That's a woman with fibrocystic or estrogen dominance. So see all
Wow.
those blotches all over her breast?
Yes.
Not supposed to be there.
It does look like animal.
It's amazing, right?
That is
So,
crazy.
I'm going to take this. I got one more.
So I got a quick question about that. When there's the estrogen dominance, such as that, and can it be splotchy like that all over the entire body, or is
If
it
there's
just
if
like in certain
It's
spots?
yeah, it tends to go where there's fatty tissue, and if a
Gotcha.
person's really toxic, and you'll see it on fatty tissue. Fat's called or adipose tissue is called the third estrogen. You'll see it on the arms, the legs. It depends on how overweight a person is.
Hmm.
And again, I work with several doctors that do hormonal balancing, and I've seen women, in their 70s that have lots of estrogen. So that's good. It's hormone replacement, bioidentical hormones. But again, there are the innate intelligence in the plant kingdom, particularly in the
Hmm.
broccoli kingdom, that has that knows to go to those receptor sites and metabolize off those foreign estrogens and leaves the good estrogen. And iodine turns on estriol. Estriol is a positive, good estrogen. So it knows to take the bad and leave the good. And again, estrogen is our sexy hormone, but then a lot of breast cancer is estrogen driven. So we want to make sure that we're not overabundant in the wrong kinds of estrogen. So,
Yes.
and this we talked about oral health. This is
Hmm.
a classic picture of a woman whose mouth was draining right into
Oh,
her
wow.
breast. Can you
Oh,
see that?
wow. Yeah, we
Can you
can
see
see that.
can you see the drainage into her breast?
Yeah, that black.
Yep.
Oh my goodness, it goes right there.
Yep.
That's
So
disturbing.
so again, working with a biological dentist is am I losing my light? Working with a biological dentist is the way you want to go. And if you have root canals and they're in the back, I highly suggest taking them out, really. I mean, if they're in the front, it's a lot of money to think about, implants and such as
Hmm.
that. But that movie, Root Cause, I saw it with a dentist. It's a little squeamish, but I had mine taken out. Thank goodness they're in the back. But, again, uh, actually, the longest chapter in my book was on oral health. That was it because it plays so much into breast health.
Since you're mentioning your book, I would love to talk about it for a minute before we go to commercial break. Where can we find this book? And tell us about it, please.
Okay, it's on Amazon and it's called Thermography in the Fibrocystic and Dense Breast, a radiation-free survival guide for happy, healthy breasts. It's a mouthful. And I wrote it because I had 9 patients that came in 2 days with the same story, dense breast, over
Hmm.
radiated, over biopsied, because I would like to talk about dense breast also when we
Hmm.
come back, because 49% of women have dense breasts and it's not abnormal. But a mammogram has as low as a 28% sensitivity, so they can't see what they're doing, so they biopsy it. And the
Yeah.
good news is that 80% of the biopsies are false positives, but then again, a woman's been traumatized and she's been radiated, and they continue to tell her to come back every year.
Hmm.
But if she depends solely on anatomical studies, MRI, mammogram, or ultrasound, and she has dense breasts, her chances of getting breast cancer at some point is 75% because they'll get false negatives. Say, "Oh, you're fine." They can't see it. And
Oh, wow.
thermography has no issue because they're looking at heat. They're not looking at anatomy. So I wrote the book because I started seeing a pattern, and I said
Mm.
our breasts are monetized,
Yeah.
and women are traumatized, and they're coming to me, with the same story. This is not right. And then I
Yeah.
started seeing the increase in estrogens, and I've been in practice 10 years, and I was like, I didn't really see breast cancer for those first 5 years, but now, not so much seeing breast cancer, I'm seeing such toxicity in the breast
Mm.
because we're just exposed. They said 8 out of 10 cancers are coming from toxins.
Yeah.
Again, it's an overabundance of that's in our environment. So we really have to think about, finding a detox and getting all this stuff out of our body. And I offer a 6-month protocol. So I have great results in detoxing.
And to join the 6-month protocol, where can they go to your website?
They can go to my website that's up there, patricialucardi.com. And it's in that. And you can email me at patricialucardi@gmail.
Perfect. I love that so much. So, a little personal story. My mom passed away from breast cancer when she was 43.
Oh,
And
I'm
that was
so
the third
sorry.
time that she'd had it. And because it came back. And the thing was, it was very fascinating because, gosh, she had to have been early 30s when she first was diagnosed. And this was, this was like 30 years ago. So that was, really, she was really young back in the
And
day.
you were really young too.
Yeah, I was definitely really young, but the thing that was fascinating about it is she actually it had to do with the toxins that were coming into her body because she lived, and this is going to sound so hokey, but I don't really care. She lived downwind from an experiment that the government, and it's documented, but they let out all these chemicals to see what would happen to the people. She got breast cancer. And the fascinating thing about it is my grandmother also had a different kind of cancer, but they're not related.
Wow.
So it doesn't run in the family or anything
Interesting.
like that. And every person that I knew that was family or by marriage, even that was there at that time, everybody who smoked ended up getting cancer of some sort, but everybody who didn't
Mhm.
smoke didn't get it. So
You're not from Long Island, are you?
no.
Long Island is Cancer Alley,
Yeah.
there's cancer. And that's actually the woman who I created the story in my book. Amanda, her mother had breast cancer, but she lived on a farm and she was exposed to, pesticides and everything. She
Yeah.
didn't die from the cancer, but again, I mean, there's an increase in male breast cancer, particularly from the responders at 9/11.
Yeah.
Now 20 years later, they're having breast cancer. But a
Yeah.
man's not going to go get a mammogram because there's nothing really to put it in. But yes,
Exactly.
toxins are huge. Toxins are really big.
Well, yeah, and nobody knows about what you do. I mean, not nobody, but I mean, if you're a man, it's not like you're going to think you're going to have breast cancer anyway. So why would you even
Right.
think to, be checked for anything like that? So
Right.
it's kind of crazy.
Well, it's all about prevention.
Yes.
We don't want to be a number. We want to be preventative. We want to be in prevention, and because once it's found on a mammogram, it's been there for a long time. I mean,
Yeah.
there's fast-growing tumors, and was a woman supposed to wait till she's 40 and then start getting a mammogram? And then this one book that I have, it's called Mammography Screening: Truth, Lies, and Controversy. It is a big book, and it is very filled with science, very small type. And they said to really small type, and they said to radiate a woman before the age of 50 borders on unethical. And there are 25 and 30-year studies on mammograms. And believe me, a lot of women have found their cancer because of mammograms, because that's all she's been offered, right?
Yeah.
But in Switzerland, they no longer offer mammograms because the harm outweighs the good.
Wow.
So if a woman's being constantly radiated, and ionizing radiation is harmful, and it's cumulative in the body. And that's why a lot of women, when they're older, they get breast cancer. It could be a lot of the toxins, is just the accumulation of radiation. But we're one of the few countries not using thermography as an early prevention. Brazil, Canada, well, I say Canada was, but Switzerland, Brazil, Mexico, Japan, Puerto Rico. Come on, why are we not doing this?
We do need to go to commercial, but I have a really important question to ask before we go, because we're going to talk about another subject when we come back. And that is, how does somebody find a good place to get, what do you call it? Thermography? To get that done. And I assume that there's some that might be better than others. How would you even know if they knew what they're doing?
Well, I'm with Breast Thermography International. It's btiscan.com, Breast Thermography International, btiscan.com. And we are the leading interpreters, and we're trying to standardize the industry. So there is a standardization. If it ever got brought back by insurance, well, that would be great, because that means that they're into prevention and they're not into just treatment, because the breast model is treatment. It's when we find it, we'll treat it. So you can go to our website and look in locations. We're kind of becoming all around the country. We have tons and tons in Florida. We have throughout the East Coast, but we're starting to grow out west. We have California. The other thing is, when you do find thermographers, see if you can see what their screenings look like. But, it's better than nothing. It's better than nothing.
Exactly. All right. Well, on that note, we're going to go to commercial break.
Okay. See you in a little bit.
Well, everyone, I know I am feeling blessed by this information, because I had no idea before this conversation. So we do need to go to commercial break. But before we go, I want to say hello to everybody who is watching us live. You are appreciated. But as I mentioned, we'll be right back after these commercials.
Now, you can vibrationally align your aura. You can gain a larger and spiritual perspective on life, relationships, God, people, wellness, and money. You can also have moments of meditation and reflection any time of the day. And reading the thrilling, adventurous, and mystical story of Shiga will just add more faith to your daily experience of the mystery of the universe.
When drug or alcohol addiction take over, things begin to disappear. Your friends, your family, and eventually, you. Recommended by Dr. Phil, New Method Wellness can help get your life back with individualized treatment plans for dual diagnosis clients. New Method Wellness provides the most highly credentialed treatment in a safe and welcome environment. Call New Method Wellness for your free consultation and ask about our national accreditations. Together, we can put the pieces back together.
As human beings, we are meant to thrive in an environment where true love is shared, where we are welcome just as we are, a space we connect with others with the single purpose to find God as love within, a place we learn to raise our consciousness and vibration for happiness, wellness, and wealth creation. Transformative, an online spiritual gathering for everyone. This invitation is sent to you by www.livingfaithschool.org.
Welcome back, everyone. If you're just joining us now, my name is Julianne Meyer, and I'm the host of Own Your Wellness. And today we have a wonderful guest. Her name is Patricia Lucardi. Let's bring her back. Oops, hold on one second. I got to press the right button. There we go. I was like, I don't need to change her name.
Those commercials are so beautiful.
Oh,
They are,
thank you.
this is where we all need to be. We need to be in alignment with our souls and our body, mind, spirit, and get out of this separation that we're in right now and come home to this unification of spirit. But those are beautiful. I'm in, it's right. I'm in.
No, I just, that's kind of why I started doing this show too, because you can eat as much broccoli as you want and do as many burpees as you can. But yet, if you are not taking care of all of you, that includes your soul, your emotions, everything, then you're just not healthy. And so anyway, I was going
to ask you, what is a burpee?
A burpee. Oh my goodness. Okay. A burpee is this awful, I call it awful. You go down and then you push your legs out, pop them out, do a push-up, then hop back your feet back to your hands and jump up into the air.
Well,
they're not fun. They're a lot of work. Most people hate them.
Well, there you go. I guess I've never done one.
Well, you're lucky. I've done more than enough for the both of us.
That's funny. That's funny. No, they're beautiful commercials.
Thank you. I appreciate that. But anyway, let's get back to our conversation. We need to talk about dense breasts.
Okay. I wish I had an image to show the ladies out there. It's on my website, but dense breasts, 49% of women have them, and it just means they have more fiber glandular tissue, and it becomes white. So the only way they could really see it is on a mammogram. So if you haven't had a mammogram, they can't really quantify what it is. They can do it a little bit with an ultrasound, but the breast tissue becomes white. And if it's fatty tissue, excuse me, then you can see through the breast. So a tumor is white, and if the dense tissue is white, it's like looking for a snowball in a snowstorm. So they can't see it. That's why there's 80% of biopsies are false positives with dense breasts, because they have to just go in there and they have to biopsy, and they go, well, it was nothing, because but they don't offer a woman just an ultrasound, which would be more environmentally safe. But if they look on their own, if you look at their website, it says that dense breasted women is an ineffective test in mammography. But again, because it's a $380 billion industry, they want to continue with that model of using first a mammogram and then an ultrasound. I work with a cutting edge doctor in New York City that does 3 and 4D ultrasound that's very advanced, that is as exact as a biopsy. but that's for
Wow.
someone that needs that extra study. But again, there's nothing wrong with having dense breasts, but they
Hmm.
kind of push it back on the woman, says, well, you have a chance of getting breast cancer because you have dense breasts. No, that woman gets a chance of having breast cancer if they depend on their screening, because their
Hmm.
screening can't find it. Does
Yes.
that make sense? That using their
Yes.
screening becomes the risk that a woman would have having dense
Hmm.
breasts, because it's absolutely not abnormal.
Well,
And as we get older, our density, lessens, and it could be,
mhm.
if you breastfeed and you take hormones, and actually red meat and alcohol make our breasts more dense.
Oh.
And cysts are going through the roof. And
Hmm.
the doctor that we work with, Dr. Sepper, he's from Russia, and he has a PhD in thermology, which is the science of infrared. And I talked to him one day about cysts. He said, well, I could have you here for the next few hours, but first we have to look at the magnesium deficiency and how it plays out with the calcium, because it's
Wow.
calcification. And
Hmm.
everybody and their mother is short in magnesium. Sorry, I can spot a magnesium deficiency a block away. If anybody's doing any twitching of the face, that cramps. I had a woman recently that about every 30 seconds she went. I was like, do you see what you're doing? But unfortunately, Monsanto has
Mm.
depleted the soil for about the next 50 years of magnesium.
Yep.
And we're just short in magnesium, and it's called Nature's Calm. There's actually a powder that you can take
There
at
is.
night, but that's really for the bowels. And there's many kinds of magnesiums, but Dr. Carolyn Dean, Dean, she's a naturopathic doctor, and she's probably got more books out on magnesium deficiency, and it works with the heart. I mean, if the heart is a muscle, you get a
Hmm.
cramp in your legs and you get a cramp in your heart, well, that's a heart attack.
Yeah, that's
So it's
true.
connected to 350 metabolic functions in the body. So, and if one is sufficient in magnesium, and if one is anxious and stressed out, I'm
Mhm.
telling you, if you take enough magnesium, you will be calm. People will comment, look how calm you are. That's why it's called Nature's Calm. Not necessarily that particular brand, but it has a calming effect. And again, it's connected to anxiety, panic attacks. And also, interesting, I just wrote a blog on panic attacks and breath. At first, I was a breath educator. And you
Mhm.
look at how tight these bras are. What about Victoria's Secrets? Let's talk about Victoria's Secrets. How much can you push a bra? How much can you push your breast up around your neck? Would a man be doing that to his? No. Okay. Let's push those babies up so it's around our neck. Let's squeeze them in. Let's pinch them. Let's pull them up. And let's take that bra tight.
Yeah.
Why are we doing that to our breast? Why?
Yeah.
Because that is affecting our breathing. Think about what women had in Victorian times in England. They wore those corsets, and they
Mhm.
couldn't get the alveola, the breath down there, so they were dying of consumption, which is what, what is it? The lung disease. What's it called? Tuberculosis.
TB.
Tuberculosis, TB, and it was really big during that time. They actually turned it into a fashion statement, because people with TB had very white skin and red lips, so they turned it into a fashion where they started doing white makeup and red lips, and they had fainting rooms for women, fainting rooms, because they couldn't breathe. And that's where they got that whole thing that women were hysterical ninnies. Well, of
Nah.
course, if we're breathing high into our chest, that's a panicky breath. That's a sympathetic nervous system breath. And
Mhm.
if a person's breathing over 16 breaths per minute, that's hidden hyperventilation. More people go to the hospital with hidden hyperventilation because it affects so many metabolic types. So
Wow.
bras can push us into those anxiety modes because we're not breathing correctly. And with COVID and wearing mask and not
Mhm.
breathing and wearing a tight bra, it's a perfect storm.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Oh, unfortunately, yes. Now I can't unknow
Now
that.
you're gonna unsnap your bra. Well, what's the first thing you want to take off when you get home besides your shoes? Right?
Yeah, well, I always used to feel bad when I didn't put one on. Now I won't.
Well, they have ones that are becoming a little less constructed. I think there's naked and true bra.
Mm.
But the underwire is absolutely, it's just don't even bother, because it's really not doing anything. It's all in the strap.
Yeah.
Years ago, when I did hair and makeup, I did a commercial with, oh, now I'm dating myself. What was her name? It was Playtex Living Bras, and it was, oh my goodness, she was in Auntie Mame. What was her name? Rosalind Russell.
Oh, okay.
And she said, cross your heart, living bra. And the bra fitter said, darling, the lift is in the strap. So she took my strap and she went boing, boing, boing. She says, how you lift them. Back then, they didn't really have those wires. So it's all about, if you want your breast lifted, you pull them up in the strap. Don't expect those little wires to hold those things up in space, because they're not doing anything. And they're also interacting with EMFs, because you got, metal on your body.
That's
So,
true. Oh my goodness. Yes.
mhm.
Oh, yep, that is so true. And plus, how often do those little wires even fit in the right spots?
Well, they actually, it's interesting, because I interviewed several lymphatic therapists for my book, and the bra comes across the front right above the sternum, where
Mhm.
there's not a receptor site, there's a lymphatic drainage point that goes
Mhm.
into our liver.
Oh, wow.
And then there's lymph on the back of a person's back, and that gets backed up. Obviously, it's under the armpit.
Mhm.
And they were saying that more women come in with under their arms the size of a half of an apple that's
Mhm.
under their armpit, because it's backed up lymph.
Wow.
So, just taking dry brushing, a rebounder, jumping on a rebounder.
Yeah.
If you can get lymphatic drainage, it's wonderful for the breast. And it's being kind to our breasts, knowing what our breasts like. Again, they like things that are green. They
Mhm.
don't like coffee. They don't like alcohol particularly. And they don't like tight bras. And they love all things green. I always say, what makes the best breast milk when you're a mommy? Again, it's all the things that are green and fresh
Mhm.
and alive, and that's what you want your
Exactly.
your baby to be drinking.
Yeah. No, I always think about what food actually is. Do I really want to put dead flesh into my body, or do I want to put something green that's at least up until recently, very alive?
Yes, we want to do the spiritual dimensions of life force that's in plants.
Yes,
Oh, oh,
exactly.
oh, okay. We have to talk about cheese out there.
Oh, yes. Oh, we
All
got
right,
to.
cheese. Okay, so out there in computer land, TV land, of all these ladies out here, do you not love grazing at a cheese board? Well, I actually took this from Dr. Mercola at Christmas time. There were 12,000 doctors that came together that wanted to put a warning label on cow cheese, factory farm. This is not
Mhm.
pastured where you go to your local farmer. Excuse me. Well, that's not from eating cheese, by the way. But uh, I have an open fireplace here. But they wanted to put warning labels on cheese that are coming from factory farms. If you saw that, you would be so appalled how those animals are treated, and
Yep.
their own hormones are shooting in. That for the trauma, their calves are lying next to them dying. The pus, all the stuff that goes into this, and then the trauma, and then their own hormones, and the
Mhm.
hormones that are being put in there, and we're eating that. So
Mhm.
that is putting our cow cheese, factory farm cow cheese, is putting our breast at risk. Now, they
You
don't have
know,
that in France, because
yeah,
they don't do factory farming there. They don't do that in
exactly.
Italy, because they don't do factory farming there. So if you're gonna get
Exactly.
cheese and you wanna bring it from another country, or goat cheese, but I have a
Mhm.
friend, I live in New York State, and he's up in the Catskills, and he's got a organic goat farm, and he said, "Listen, that pus still gets into that milk, you can't get away from it,"
Yeah,
so, again, it's in the vegan cheese, you have to ask, is this better because it's biotech food and not all of it's great?
exactly.
So, I don't know, are we really supposed to be eating cheese? I don't know,
You
but
know, I'm
something
glad
to
that
think
you
about.
brought that up though, because, the vegan cheese and all the imitation everything, it's like, if you want to go and stop eating animal products, why don't you just find new things? And this is what I always preach. Why not find new favorites instead of trying to imitate? I don't know that that's healthy. I don't see how that's healthier, because like it's created in a lab.
Mhm. Right.
It's not
It is gr
natural. So,
Well, have you had that Beyond Burger?
Oh, I have to admit, yes, definitely.
I have, and I was in the city in New York City, and I said, "Can I get a Beyond Burger?" And it starts oozing out that beet juice that looks like blood, and I said, "Excuse me, but are you sure that's really not meat?" I wanted to make sure that's vegetarian. She said, "Oh, that's the beet juice." That's weird. That was weird.
It's weird.
That is weird. Actually, that's weird. But,
It is. It is.
it's everybody has their own metabolic type and everybody's got their own issues and their own likes of food. But
Mhm.
it's, I think, in our hearts that we're basically very compassionate vegetarians and
Yes.
we just do what we have to. And if you're going to eat the meat, honor that meat like the Native Americans, pray over it, honor that life and, bless it.
Exactly. And, that's the thing. It's, I grew up vegetarian because that's how I grew up. But
Mhm.
I have eaten meat and I do every once in a while. But, if somebody else, then that's how they grew up. I understand that that's how you think you need to eat and it feels normal and it feels comfortable. And there's no shame in that. But why not try
Mhm.
something different that might make you
Right,
healthier?
right, 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 right. Well,
No, I love
so what
that.
else? What other subjects can we cover?
Well, actually, I wanted to say something really quick about cheese because, it is fascinating because I used to live in Italy. And when I
Where'd
lived
you
there,
live?
I would eat cheese, I would eat, pasta every day, pizza, all those supposedly bad foods. And I was probably the thinnest I ever was.
I was too. I lost weight when I lived in Italy because
Exactly.
the food's not processed, and you don't eat your junk
Exactly.
food in between.
Exactly. Exactly. And plus your taste buds change and you get enough of something that's a little more rich and it's satisfying. You don't need to eat until you feel numb. So
Well, they also don't have the gluten problem that we have here.
yeah.
Because my daughter, because my kids are half Italian, they said, "Mommy, I go to Italy and I don't get a food belly
Yeah.
because they don't have the kind of wheat that we have here that's,
Yeah.
that creates that problem."
Yes, our
Yeah.
mutant wheat.
Yeah, mutant wheat is right, mutant wheat.
But anyway, so you mentioned that that there's things that we can eat like the green stuff, things like that. Is there certain, you were talking about the lymphatic system. I would love to talk about that a little bit more actually, because I feel like if that is working well, then that would help everything as well, just like the greens would. So
Mhm.
you mentioned a few things that you can do, but what exactly is the lymphatic system? How does it
Well,
affect everything?
what is the lymphatic? It's just under the skin on the muscle, and it's a fluid, and it doesn't have a heart to beat like like our heart. The blood is moved by the heart, and it's
Hmm.
it's it's moved by movement. It's just movement, and a lot of people are couch potatoes now, so there's
Hmm.
not movement. It's stagnant through tight clothing, through tight pants, through bras, and it's where the toxins are. And when we do lymphatic drainage or the lymph moves, it comes out through the bowel movements and through the urine
Hmm.
and through the sweat. Um, One of my lymphatic therapists that I interviewed, she said she feels that cheese is a stagnator to the lymph, and she
Mm.
finds that women who eat a lot of cheese has very slow moving lymph. And there's two kinds of ways to move it if you go to a lymphatic therapist. One's called the Vodders technique, Vodders, and
Hmm.
it's manual. It's just moving. It's breast massage. It's just the weight of your hand.
Mm.
Just the weight of your hand can move that lymph. So it's not like a deep tissue. And the other one is a Limp Star machine. And I mean, there's probably different machines. And it works with an ultraviolet wand and it
Mm.
can get in there and move. So the limp has like train stops. It's got under the arms, the back of the neck, back of the
Hmm.
knees, and around the stomach and the groin. And we want to get that limp moving. And
Hmm.
again, if you don't have a rebounder, you just barely bend your knees and bounce and
Hmm.
bounce and bounce. But if you get into bouncing, then you get into cardio movement. But if you just slightly bounce for 3 minutes, you're going to move the lymph. When you come home at night, throw off that bra, massage your breast. And the other thing, our breasts like certain, you can't take all essential oils because some of them are estrogen producing, like
Mm.
the wormwood that gentleman was
Yeah.
taking. But our breasts like citrus oils, orange, lemon, tangerine. There's actually studies on lavender and
Oh,
breast
wow.
health. If you have someone who sells the doTERRA oils or the Young Living, they're
Mm-hmm.
usually knowledgeable. One of my colleagues who is also a thermographer, I think she's with the Young Living, she came up with a protocol of essential oils, and the before and after of, like I showed you, the fibrocystic breast,
Mm-hmm.
in 3 months it was gone. Three
Wow.
months. Now I get great success using the broccoli and such, but in 3 months she had great success. So
And, I'm really glad that you mentioned that too, because, when we go to the white coat people, they only know what they know. And I'm not saying, I'm just saying that there's alternatives. There's other ways to help yourself. And if you don't like what your doctor is telling you, that doesn't mean you have to do it. It doesn't mean, you can continue with your research on your own and figure out what
mhm,
works for you. And I just love that
right.
you brought that up, because it's a lot less invasive than, having a double mastectomy, for example.
We wanted to cover biopsies. We talked a
We
little
have
bit
a
about
few minutes,
biopsies.
so let's do
Okay.
it.
There is a book called Busting Breast Cancer, and it is a tell-all on the breast cancer industry, and it's excellent. It is, and she has a whole chapter in there that there's an overabundance of biopsies. So
Mm.
what they do, they go in there and they puncture that site. That needle has a hole in it, so they
Mm-hmm.
puncture that site, and whatever's in there, it can take it out and it can spread. And there is now an overabundance, an increase in metastatic cancer. That means it's going to different parts of the body.
Mm-hmm.
And okay, so what happens on that wound site? The macrophages, which are part of the immune system, they
Mm-hmm.
go to repair that wound site, and whatever's been released, it jumps on the back like hitchhikers, and it's taken around the body, and it's taken to different organ systems, different
Wow.
places, and that cancer can spread. So if a woman does have cancer and they're certain, many times they'll just give a little dose of radiation because they know that that's going to start spreading it.
Mm-hmm.
So there is an overabundance of women that are being uh, biopsied because of dense breast because they can't see it. Now,
Yeah.
they will offer a woman something called 3D tomosynthesis. That is a digital mammography that has a 60% sensitivity for dense breast, but that means it's still a 40% that they can't see it.
Wow.
So, and then they'll offer her on top of that, go back to having a mammogram. So that's a
Mm-hmm.
double whammy, and that's 38% more ionizing radiation.
Wow.
So dense breast is it's not the way to do it. Thermography is the way. They had a
Yeah.
study at Presbyterian Cornell that dense breasted women has a very high successful rate, up to
Mm-hmm.
97% with an ultrasound, because the two to go together. It's anatomy and physiology.
Mm-hmm.
Thermography is physiology, and then anatomy would be an ultrasound. They're environmentally safe. So that's what we
And
want. We want to be environmentally safe for our breast.
exactly, because we are in an environment as well. So
Right. And that's not to say, again, women, their lives have been saved through
Mhm.
mammograms, but again, radiating and squeezing a breast is
Yeah,
something that we have to really think about that. A man wouldn't be doing that. Would a man be doing that?
exactly.
No.
And that's the thing too. It's like there's a better way, so why don't we use a
Right.
better
Right.
way?
Oh, right.
We don't have
Well,
to be
and
stuck.
yeah, and many doctors say, "Well, I don't believe in that." Well, physics is not a belief system, and
Yeah.
there's over 800 published articles on
Yeah,
breast cancer and thermography on the Index Medicus. So it's been there, and it's just that they don't know about it. But you'll say, "Well, what would be the issue of trying to find something earlier? It's just more information."
exactly.
It can't just be, it's not a standalone, but it works with an ultrasound.
Yeah.
So, but again, it's prevention. We want prevention.
Yes, absolutely. Well, that is all the time that we have today, Miss
We
Patricia. I
covered a
just
lot
want
of
to say
ground. Thank you so much.
thank
Thank you,
you.
guys.
It has been such a pleasure, and hopefully we'll be able to chat soon.
Okay, thank you so
Thank
much. Thank
you.
you. Thank you.
Well, everyone, that is all the time that we have. Unfortunately, I think that I could just sit here and talk for a little bit longer because this is absolutely fascinating. And I'm 43 years old and I didn't know that much about my breasts. Who had any idea? Anyway, hopefully you do now. And now we know how we can better take care of ourselves, ladies. So until next time, have a great weekend.